Okay. All right, everyone, if I could have your attention. Thank you. I should introduce Dave McLellan, but everybody knows him, and I can't say enough, so I'm just going to turn it over to Dave.
Oh, geez.
So we were very, very fortunate to have Dave come, and Paul as well, to give a presentation. So Dave's got a couple things he wants to tell us about, and we're really looking forward to it. So thank you,
Okay,
Dave.
thank you, Ed.
Yep.
I would first like to introduce my wife, Joanna. She's in the back row there. Yes. And I think you all know Dave Johnson and Ed Schmidt, so I'm not going to reintroduce them. And I think this is a very inside group. I did spend some time going through YouTube videos that included the ZR-1s, and I would have to say there's really a renaissance going on right now, a rediscovery of these cars, 35 years old. They're still contemporary today. This is the best way I can describe it, and that's what these people are waking up to and seeing it. So I suspect that the price for ZR-1s and C4 Corvettes is going to take a pretty much a continual increase now as we go forward, and that's fine. But if you want to buy a ZR-1, buy it now, and don't wait another 5 years or so. When I'm going to tell you a little of the gestation that actually leads to what we did with Reeves Callaway. And that'll give you a sense of where we were all coming from. When we did the 84 what became the 84 Corvette, it was really the 83, and then it was late because of some purchasing issues, and it actually came into production in January of calendar 83, and you can have only one January 1st in your model year, according to EPA. It's amazing how they run stuff. And so the decision was made to call them 84s for the next 17, 18 months. And that's why there was no 83. The engine in the 84 was basically the engine that we had used in the 82, brought forward and given a little more power. It was a mistake, I must say. The engine guys thought they had a winner with a single plane manifold with 2 unit fuel injectors on it, but it was a nightmare. A nightmare to get fuel economy, a nightmare to get the emissions, because that single plane manifold did not give a good even distribution of fuel air ratio. So you had to run a fairly rich mixture, which destroyed your fuel economy. And as I look back on it, it really took Chevrolet engine group making that kind of mistake and perpetuating it into production and struggling with it to finally get the management team to say, we're going to go to 8 pipes, 8 injectors, full-blown emission controlled, but best power intake system on the cars. We also had initially some really bizarre designs for the catalytic converters that were very inefficient. And we finally got that broomed out of there with the 84 and went to the what basically looks like, when you look through it, it's looking like you're looking through soda straws, but they're actually a steel structure with with fine tubes, and then the catalyzing materials on all those interior surfaces. So we started to get our act together, but we're still a long ways at that point. The engine group built us 6 twin turbo V8 cars in '85, and those were very powerful cars. They didn't drop compression ratio, so we were using 130 octane fuel from the research lab fuel tanks, which was fine because we didn't take them on long trips at that point, but we had the high octane fuel available to us. We showed one of those cars to the Chevrolet marketing people at the Desert Proving Grounds, which no longer exist, unfortunately. But they have or had a oval track, and we set up the Corvette twin turbo sitting at the beginning of the far turn, which was about a mile away, and we had a red Lamborghini Countach in our fleet, and we had the Countach circulating the track at 120 miles an hour, and the Corvette was just sitting there stopped. Actually it was an automatic car. And as the Countach went by the Corvette, the Corvette took off. And when we staged the marketing people about a mile down the track, so they could see these 2 cars, and the Lamborghini in bright red kept getting bigger and bigger because it was just going at constant speed all the way toward us. The Corvette had to start from 0, and it looked like it was never going to catch up. It was way back there, and it just never got close. And then as the Countach went by, the Corvette went by at the same time at 180 miles an hour, which is that for Chevrolet marketing people, that's impressive. Yeah, that's all I can say. Those cars, later we had one of them that we did some analog brake work on it, and I won't tell the whole story there, but it was a 220 mile an hour car. So that's the level that we were working at that time, trying to get the marketing people and the management people to the point where they would support a major powertrain program, because we were still struggling with emissions and fuel economy in California. It was a mess. All the things that we had to deal with. And so we had then a trip, a 1-day test trip that included the vice president of Chevrolet at that time, Lloyd Royce. And we put Lloyd in one of the twin turbo cars, and we took a trip out on the road with it. He actually spun the car in Phoenix, Arizona, in the city. I think he got onto some dust because it's a very dusty place out there at times, and he must have put his foot in it and spun it out. He didn't hit anything. Did it embarrass him? I don't know. But in the end, Lloyd, Lloyd had come from Chevrolet to Buick and then back to Chevrolet in a series of advances, and he was responsible at Buick for the Grand National, so he pretty well understood what one had to do to make a turbo car work in production. With the Corvette, it was his decision that he didn't want to do a turbo Corvette. It wasn't high tech enough. What he wanted us to do was a 4-cam, 4-valve V8 that we didn't have, and GM had never designed such a car, such an engine either. So it became a problem as to how are we going to get this done. And the chief of the engine group, Russ G., basically whined at at Lloyd that he was so busy getting emissions on all these different cars and trucks done that there was no way that he could put a team together to do such a complex new engine for them. And Lloyd, to his credit, would hear nothing of that. And he told Russ that he should get on an airplane and fly around the world if he had to find the team that can do the car, which Russ, to his credit, did. And where he landed first for us was at Lotus in England. Now, when you go on YouTube, there's guys talking about this Mercury Marine Lotus Chevrolet built engine, designed and built engine, as if it was simple to do. And I'll tell you, it was not simple. And we were incredibly fortunate to have Lotus as our design partner for the engine. They had not done in modern time, in current times at that point, they had not done an engine to the final state that was this complicated. They had an experimental engine for their V8 mid-engine Etna sports car, but they ran out of money and had never finished the engine, basically. And at that point, some point right in there, they were also bought by General Motors. So we had an inside track on them, obviously. But what was important there was that the chief engineer at Lotus for these kinds of projects had grown up as a mechanical engineer, trained by Rolls-Royce, and trained in the period just before World War II on the McLellan engine, which was their 23-liter, I think it is, V12 turbo supercharged engine that ended up with triple supercharging, and you fly to 40,000 feet and maintain power at altitude. Itself a very complicated engine, and there were actually more of these engines built ultimately by Packard in Detroit than they were built by Rolls-Royce. But it was it's been an iconic engine, and the chief engineer ended up being the reliability engineer, continuing to develop the engine during the war, and he learned to fly the Spitfires, Supermarine Spitfires, which had this engine as a part of his job assignment. And so when he flew over England testing his airplanes with these engines, his plane was fully armed with machine guns and cannons, like any other military Spitfire, because you could never tell if you were going to be chased by a German ME-109 or one of the other contemporary performance German military fighters. And that never happened to him, fortunately. And toward the end of the war, he was made redundant because Rolls-Royce was moving from piston engines to the jet engines, and they didn't need these reliability engineers anymore. So he wound up uh, as the pilot of a Lancaster 4-engine bomber with the four of the um, Merlin engines, and he had 28 missions over Germany, and he never got shot down. He survived it, and there he was at the end of the war with all this skill and knowledge. And just before he started our program, he had finished, it was actually stillborn, a Formula One engine that was designed to run in qualifying at 1,000 horsepower. This is a little six-cylinder engine, highly turbocharged, and you could run at 1,000 horsepower for like one lap, but it didn't have the cooling capacity to be able to run a continuous race condition at that power level. They had to drop the power level down to about 750 horsepower. So he was also an expert on cooling engines and oiling engines and all the other things that we had to do. And so we wound up with all of that knowledge and his team from the Formula One engine, because Formula One had moved while this engine was being developed, first as a one-cylinder engine before they built a complete V6. The formula changed to a naturally aspirated V12. I think it was like 3 liters. And so this team became available to us, and that's the team that designed the LT5 engine. And yeah, we had some problems along the way that were uncovered in dynamometer testing. The oiling, the oil returns from the overhead camshaft system were inadequate because you put a lot of oil up there for that 4 camshafts and all the bucket tappets lifters that have to be oiled, and so we had to stop and do a local re-engineering of the paths back down to the sump, but they got that done, and it cost us a few months' time, but so be it. The engine was better for that in doing that. We didn't have engines until fairly late in the program, so we used the turbos for a lot of the testing that was not directly engine related, but was for other purposes, like that analog brake test. So we were in good shape there. We also had, and I think you're aware, raced the car for 3 years, 85, 86, and 87 years in SCCA showroom stock racing, mostly against Porsche. And in the later years of that program, in fact, we won every race, okay? Porsche never won a race. We won all the races in that series. And after 3 years, we got kicked out by SCCA. And I don't know why. It didn't make sense, because we were really what was making the series interesting to people. But I think Porsche was surprised that they weren't winning. They almost won one of the races in the second year, where they were leading at Portland, and there was one of the Corvettes behind them. And of course, this was the L98 Corvette, not the ZR-1 yet. And it started to rain, and the Porsche spun off the track. It survived that, and got back on the track, but the Corvette that was right behind by 86 had anti-lock brake control. And we had trained all the Corvette drivers, race drivers, in anti-lock brake performance. So they knew what to do and how to do it and did it. And the Corvette was able to stay under control, get slowed down enough they could get through the turn and won the race. So we had that. We also had Sterling Moss driving against us at that time, and he for Porsche, and he was very competitive, but we still won the race. So it was really an interesting time, and it gave us the experience that when we got to the LT5 engine, and even that 24-hour endurance test that we ran in the spring of 1990, we were very confident that the engine and the chassis were capable of managing 24-hour race, which basically that was at Fort Stockton. And the biggest problem that we were going to have was drivers. You know, we had really good drivers because we had drivers that had come out, had been trained with us in the showroom stock series. They had experience with 6, 12, and 24-hour races already. So we knew that they were capable of managing the car under those kinds of stressful circumstances. And they did a great job. The LT5 car never had a problem running off the road or whatever. They just kept running it. They ran it at 180 in order to average 175.885. It was. So yeah, it was a very interesting task to achieve that world record for the FIA 24 hours, and we did it with a production engine that was actually broken in during the 24-hour run. And people don't want to believe that, but that's the truth. That engine came right out of production. It had been run for about 20 minutes in testing, because they ran all of your engines for about that period of time to make sure that everything was working right. But they were Mercury Marine was doing a race quality engine every day in production, and I don't think Chevrolet had ever done that before. So it was an amazing time. Backing up a little bit, we when the decision was made to do a 4-cam, 4-valve naturally aspirated engine, which became the LT5, I must say we weren't terribly confident that we were going to get the money to actually do it, even though the general manager, vice president had said that's what he wanted to do. But these things sometimes do fall apart. They get turned around. They get delayed. There's all kinds of things that happen that are not anticipated in a situation like this. And so between Don Runkle, who was at that time the chief engineer for Chevrolet, working with the marketing side of the business, although he was a contemporary of mine in engineering, Don and I decided that we needed to do something with these turbo cars, and it was a call from Don to Reeves Callaway. Reeves, we want to give you this car as a test article to see what you think. And so we sent him one of the twin turbo V8s, automatic transmission. And what was surprising about that car at that point was that people who weren't used to that kind of a performance level, because with small turbos on a V8 that's already got a very strong torque curve, you're standing still, the car's running, you're in gear, you put your foot on the throttle, and the car, naturally aspirated for a moment, leaps forward, and then the turbo kicks in, and you go like a rocket. And people that were not used to experiencing that would take their foot off the gas for a moment, and then realize that, well, it didn't blow up, nothing terrible happened, and put their foot back on the gas, just as the engine, as the transmission was shifting from first gear to second or third, because you were telling it at fairly low speed to just go back to cruise. and then you put your foot back on the gas, and it's right in the middle of the shift, and the clutches in the transmission were not capable of absorbing the torque level they had to deal with at that point, so you would wipe out a transmission. That's the way it goes. Yeah. So and none of the LT5s were built as automatic. Well, we built one as an automatic. We built it with ZF with a 5-speed, and that was a really interesting car. But that's another story. We couldn't get Chevrolet to pay for that. But that was the initial gestation with Reeves, and then Chevrolet worked out a deal with them for this B2K RPO that at designated Chevrolet dealers. I think there were like 18 or 20 of them. If you check that box, the car would be built as a naturally aspirated car with certain features on it. It would be delivered to Reeves Callaway in Old Lyme, and then rebuilt as a twin turbo as the production cars, and then put back into the delivery system and sent to the dealer wherever it was in the country. So it was a good system for Callaway. It got the car moved around at the lowest possible cost and fairly quickly. And you know, there's your first program. The Sledgehammer out here was completely different from the production cars in so many ways. And Reeves and his chief engineer on that car are on YouTube, and it's a really good story to watch the details of if you haven't seen it. But I just tell you, there's a lot of C4 ZR-1 discussions now in YouTube, and they're all very interesting. Some of them don't get it right, unfortunately. I mean, there's not much you can do about that, because not getting it right, if it doesn't hurt the car, isn't a problem. But they seem to have no idea of how important Lotus was, how capable Lotus was, and how capable Mercury Marine was, because Mercury Marine was building engines. They were taking Chevrolet V8 engines and even down to 6s and 4s and marinizing them, turning them into boat engines. And so we had our engine guys had a lot of experience working with Mercury Marine, and trusted them very highly to do this performance engine and to get it right in the process. Coming back momentarily now to the 24-hour FIA run, Chevrolet management couldn't believe that we were asking them to do this, and they thought we were nuts. They thought, oh, they might fail. And well, of course you can fail, but we had tested those engines out to 200 hours on the dynamometer, running from the torque peak to the power peak and back and forth for 200 hours. Now you have to stop within that period, check the oil, do this, do that, and I think they went home at night sometimes. They didn't run 24 hours a day always. But at the end of that period, when we were satisfied that the car was, or the engine was reliable at 200 hours, we took one of them out to 500 hours. So we know the car fundamentally is capable of 500 hours at 180 miles an hour. Yeah. You know, just the 24 hours, that's 4,200 miles, I think. And you know, that'll take you from the East Coast to the West Coast. So you can drive one of these cars if it were legal, or you somehow outran all the trouble. You could go from East Coast to West Coast, or West to East. You certainly could go all the way around Nevada several times, as I'm sure they did with it. And it's a reliable car, and it's designed to do just what I told you it does. Yeah. So, questions, comments? Yes.
Pete, hold on. Let me hand Pete that mic, please.
So, Dave, I understand that.
You know Mark Haybeck, I think. Everybody knows Mark, but I hope you know him.
Hey, Mark.
My car is out here. Z-Rex is a dark green, polo green 95 ZR-1, and it's sitting at about 520 horse, I think, something like that. Yeah, and it's I would say it's a rapacious stretch forward from the production car, and if you want to truly enjoy the car and can get on Mark's schedule, he'd be happy to upgrade anybody's car to 500. I think you even do some 600 horsepower cars.
Yes, we have some big ones.
Yeah. So it's an engine that's capable of putting a smile on your face. Yeah. Okay.
So, Dave, I understand that you are responsible for coining the name sledgehammer.
Well, your dad says that. I honestly don't remember that I said that, but it makes sense because look at, I'll take an example, the DeLorean. John DeLorean ended up with this plastic car, partially engineered by Lotus, and with a European joint venture flat six or V6, I think it was a V6 engine. And I've driven the car, a production car, and it's basically like you think you're driving a Corvair. Okay, so it was not a stretch to the limit. And when you're small, like we all are in terms of overall automotive, and how do you get noticed? How do you do things? You need to do things that are outstanding in all respects. And so it's very likely the reason I talked about it as if you're going to do something, get a hammer and do it. And if you really want to do it, go get yourself a sledgehammer. Yeah. And he did. And that was incredible. And it was done decades before some of the other car companies today, Bugatti, they talk about their 250 mile an hour cars and how unusual that is. And, you know, John Lingenfelter and Reeves were doing such 250 mile an hour cars. Well, that was in C4 times I don't remember exactly when the run was made at TRC, but it's back 35 years ago or so. You could tell us when it was done.
October of '88.
Okay, okay. So it's coming up on a major anniversary in 2028. Yeah.
We'll start planning now.
Pardon?
Start planning the party now.
Yeah, right, right. Any other questions? Yes, right over here. Yeah.
Dave, if you had a chance to do it all over again, without EPA, without emissions, and designing the ZR-1, what changes would you do from the way it came out as stock?
One of the things that I didn't tell you about that we built was a twin engine car. And the idea was you put a small engine in front, like a little 4-cylinder engine, because under power you don't need that much power on the front wheels. You need a good amount of your power on the rear wheels. And you would use starting up and running the front engine to heat the exhaust system and the catalytic converters for the rear engine. And the rear engine could be whatever you decide you want to have. Yeah, it could be 6 liters, could be whatever. And that's not unlike what we do today with electric cars. You know, some of the Tesla cars are 3-motor cars with one smaller motor up front and then the main motors in the back. My boss couldn't understand how you could synchronize front and rear engines without having a connection between them. You don't need a connection. The road is the connection. So it works fine. And we built one. They actually built it was an X car with, which is like a Chevrolet Citation, I think it's called, with a aluminum V6 in the front and then aluminum V6 in the back. Because it started out life as a car, I think, used over at engineering staff for development work. And that was okay. But it proved the concept. If they needed to prove the concept, I didn't need to prove the concept. And you could do it that way, or you could do it the way that Duntov did the Serve 2, I think it is. It's a mid-engine V8 with 2 automatic transmissions, one on the front, one on the back. So you could, the second engine, or the first engine you could put in the back if you wanted. You didn't have to put it up front. Package it in the back with the main engine, use one transmission and drive both ways. There's lots of ways to do it. But that would be much more an ultimate concept. And if you're going to do a sledgehammer, that's the way you do it. Yeah. And now we got Musk to compete with, who's at 2 seconds 0 to 60, and he's got a car. I saw pictures of it on YouTube with rocket motors that he's going for 1 second 0 to 60. Yeah.
Would you have changed the gearing?
Change what?
Would you have changed the gearing?
Gearing?
If you didn't have to mess with EPA or mileage or anything else, would you have done the ZR-1 with 410 gears or 373s?
Well, my car is sitting with 410 gears.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's an
I think most of us are.
Yeah, and we ran the 180 record car, FIA record car, with 2.7 it's a 2.7 axle, I think, or 272 or something like that. 273. Yeah. They didn't need any more than that.
Right.
Yeah, they ran part throttle. They had a wooden block under the throttle pedal, so the driver just put his foot on the pedal, and he got 180 miles an hour for his trouble. So 180 mile an hour, 5,500 RPMs, and a 2.7 axle running in 4th gear. And I think part of what their thought was there that if you're running, the fourth gear is direct in the 6-speed gearbox. And so you don't have any of the losses due to meshing gears that you would have if you ran it in 5th gear. Yeah. And by the way, the other thing about when you're running 180 for a long period or running 254, as Reeves and John Lingenfelter were doing, you call up Goodyear and you say, I'm going to run 180 miles an hour for 24 hours, I need tires. And they show up with tires mounted, and in either of those cases, put the tires on the car, assemblies, and then at the end, they take them back. And I'm not sure what they did on the 254 record car, but I suspect that those were very special tires. I know the ones on the 180 car were basically a NASCAR tire, but sized to the Corvette, which is a little smaller tire. And the NASCARs use an inner liner that's free of the outer tire. So if you have a tire failure, which we did not have, you don't lose the tire to this flopping mess. Right. Yes, it'll lose air, but it'll lay in on the second tire and continue to run long enough for you to get the car slowed down. So it's a safety inner liner, if you will. Yeah. So when you're running fast, you need to have perfect tires, because any defect in the tire driving through a pothole gives you a defect. I had a legal case involving BM. No, the German company. Not Mercedes, but
BMW?
BMW, of course. Where the guy lived in Naples, and I don't know how they get these bad roads wherever they are, but we sure have them in Michigan. He went through a pothole that his front suspension stretched the damper and spring dome, and also damaged the lower control arm, the bushings, and the ball joint. So he had a pretty major repair bill to go through, which they did, and he drove the car after that, and they hadn't changed the tire. Now here's the tire that they got squashed between the road and all this upper stuff, pushed hard enough to dome the McPherson strut tower. He complained about it, and what they did was they put that tire, or the front tires on the rear and the rear tires in the front. Okay, now,
Little fix to the strut and there we go.
yeah, what's the problem? I verified this with my Goodyear dealer, told him about that, and asked him, well, what would you do? And he said, I wouldn't let the guy out the door on those tires, period. And I understood that. I just wanted to have his confirmation of it, that a dealer knew that. The guys that did the car, repaired the car, I don't know how they didn't know that. But the guy was later driving the car across Alligator Alley, straight road from Naples to Miami. And he has a rear flat tire, of all things.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
Did it blow out?
What?
Did it blow out?
Yeah.
So he wrecked.
He went off the road, rolled over, and he's now a paraplegic. Yeah. So he lived through it, but yeah, you don't, you, you suffer a lot of indignity when you do that. And what's happening is that the tire sidewall is crushed, and the rubber may not break through, but the plies in there have been damaged, and over time, that damage just propagates, and you've got yourself a problem where that tire is going to blow out because the rubber isn't strong enough to support 35 psi inside the tire. And if it's a front tire failure, it's just annoying. But that's a front tire failure gives you an extreme understeer condition where you can still steer the car, you can get it off the road, you can put the brakes on. It's just making terrible vibration at you. When it's a rear tire, now you have an extreme oversteer condition. You only have half as much cornering force capability on the rear axle. And you give that car any little twitch and it wants to go backwards. The car is stable backwards, not forwards. And bootleg turns that the guys used to, that were running booze back in the 30s and 40s and wherever. That was one of their favorite tricks, to do, lock up the rear tires momentarily, little tweak in the wheel at about 50 miles an hour. The car is backwards. You put power on the throttle, and you're headed back the other way if you know what you're doing. And it's called a bootleg turn. You get away from the reveneurs that way. Yeah, but I tell you, you put your best tires in the front. I'm sorry, best tires in the rear. I don't care what you put on the front, literally, from that standpoint. Yeah.
So do you have any other questions?
I think I wore them out.
Take the mic from Charlie. So I just wanted to thank everyone. I did pin David Johnson down for like 2 minutes and told him to stay here, but that's the extent of how long he would stay here. So I want to thank Dave McLellan.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yep. And thanks to Paul Deutschman and David Johnson's coming. Okay. So I'm just saying some thank yous. And for the Callaway family coming in to support, we had all the great Callaways, we had the great LT5s and the ZR-1, so we just had a great presentation. Thanks to everybody for attending. We weren't sure what the weather was going to be like. Knock on wood, it came out okay. So that was great.
Sun shining, yeah. It
does take a lot of effort to put all this together and planning. I want to thank David Johnson.
Thanks.
So David has this great facility, and letting us use that's fantastic. And I think I mentioned to the last group, if you weren't here, I said about a month ago, David's calling me. He's like, "We got to plan next year." I'm like, "We haven't even started this year," and he's like, "Oh no, we got to plan." So we're already planning next year, and I'll let David say a little bit about what's coming up next year because of some really exciting stuff.
Right.
I missed.
Well, let me sit down and get out of your way, and you can continue. Oh, continue to do what you're doing.
Yeah. Stand in a while.
Yeah, right. Thanks.
And I'll
There,
steal the
I'm done.
microphone from you.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Well, going off what Ed said, thank you so much for supporting us. It means a lot. Coming out in the rain, some of you drove your cars, which again, that's bringing your car to an event. It takes a lot of work. It really does. But just showing up, showing that you support the cars, the people. It's a brotherhood. It's a Callaway brotherhood. Pete, thanks for all of what you do. Sue, it's such a pleasure to meet you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming. Again, and showing support for Paul, and all the stuff that, Reeves did. It's great. We love it. We love it. Charlie, thanks for all what you do for the ZR-1 community. Ross, thanks for everything, audiovisual, tent supplies, you know, and of course, what would we do without Mark Haybeck? The center of the universe for ZR1s. But then the chief needs nothing, but, you know, but everybody showing up, being here, so it really means a lot.
And also shout out to Beverly.
Yes.
I don't know, she's been in and out, but she's the planner behind a lot of this stuff.
Oh no,
so.
she's the list. Don't forget. She's unbelievable.
She got a list of everything we did in the last couple of years of every event, and so we plan for next year. It'll be this is what we did for this year. So, but David's going to talk a little bit about next year's event.
So next year's event, what's a car, a ZR1 that could upstage the Sledgehammer? Like, what could upstage the Sledgehammer?
Or at least equal it.
Yeah, maybe equal it. The 24-hour endurance car. It's just, we're going to have that car next year with the L98 and
the LT5, the L98, the real car.
The real car.
Tommy
not
Morrison's
the PR
car,
car,
not the PR car that you might see in a museum or something. The actual real car will be here.
And we're going to have
the
Snake Skinner, but we're going to have another race car coming. And we have one of our friends, David Swallow from Detroit. We're going to take a special trip in his 3-car trailer and go get these cars and bring them to the event next year. So, but the other thing is, what's next year? The 50th anniversary of Callaway. You know, we've got special things at Carlisle, the ZR-1 Callaway Summit. We're gonna do up something really special.
Yep.
But again, thank you. It really means a lot for you to be here, showing support for Dave McLellan, Mark Haybeck, Pete Callaway.
So this is the end of the presentations, but not the end of the day. So there's plenty of things to do.
Ribs are coming out in a few minutes.
Yep, ribs are coming out. They're pretty good.
Yes.
Plenty of things to see, plenty of cars to look at, and plenty of people to talk to.
Fireworks
so
are still planned.
Yeah, fireworks are
at
tonight.
dusk, and they're good. How was dinner last night?
It was very good, but we went somewhere else.
Oh.
So yeah, I forgot to mention about the fireworks thing. So the fireworks thing, a good friend of mine I've known for 20-some years is a professional fireworks guy. He's putting on a fantastic, if people were here last year, it was a fantastic show. He's putting on an even better show. And every year he's like, I got to get a better show. So he's going to have a pretty fantastic show.
That's good.
So anyway, all right. Well, thanks all.
Thanks again.
All right, hold on. Dave McLellan wanted to say something else.
Yeah, one more thing. Whoops. Yeah. Looking at all those YouTube videos, there's one from a guy that I'd never seen before. And he was driving a 90 ZR-1 and commenting on it while he was driving. And he says, I feel like a criminal. East Coast, somewhere out in the Connecticut, Massachusetts area, I'm not sure exactly where he was, on narrow roads, but he was driving it like he stole it, yes. And saying, he said it over and over again, I feel like a criminal. And so I went, and his name was at the bottom of the page there, and I went to look and see what other kinds of cars he had been testing. And one of them was really interesting. He had tested a 300 SL Mercedes Gullwing, which is a very unique car. I've never driven one. I judged one in a concourse. Beautiful car, absolutely gorgeous car. And he had a bunch, mostly exotic cars that he was driving and evaluating. And I must say that he thought this Corvette was criminal. Criminally good. Yeah, right. That's what he meant. Yeah.
All right, good. Thank you. All right, watch your step there. Yeah. All right, thanks all. Dave, make sure he's stable.